Hi, Brian.
Hi, Ann. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So I want to introduce you first to the people who are going to be listening to this interview. You, along with your wife Marcia, you're Brian Gleason, and you run an amazing couples program called the Exceptional Marriage Mentoring Program that's been incredibly successful. And you've written a couple of books, and you are on the faculty of the New York Core Institute. You're on the faculty of the Radical Aliveness Institute, which I love. You're on the faculty of the Institute in Holland. You teach in Australia. You're all over the place.
Mexico?
Mexico, yeah. So you really do this work, and you do it a lot, and you've brought it into your couples work. And I wanted to have a conversation with you because I think there are a lot of people who have a profound misconception about the type of work we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned the word to you before, catharsis.
Right.
But really, we do very expressive work, and we work on people expressing themselves. And people tend to have a view that the type of work we do is a recycling of old feelings, that it doesn't lead to any kind of evolution, that it's very self-involved. And so I wanted to ask you to speak to that.
Yeah. So just the notion of catharsis, I think, troubles me a little bit, only because I think it's gotten a real negative rap, and it's become sort of a pejorative term. But the idea of emotional expression, I guess what I want to say about it, Anne, is that I'd like to suggest that maybe there's three or four really important reasons why we invite people to really fully feel all of what's going on inside of them, every emotion, even the so-called bad emotions, So the first reason we invite that is because the expression of emotion allows us to reestablish an equilibrium inside ourselves. So if I cry, I'm going to release some pain in my body that allows my body to come back into a sort of a steady state, So every emotion has a certain value in helping us to restore an equilibrium. Secondly, I think that another reason we really invite emotion is because it regulates our interpersonal relationships. So if you and I have some tension between us, or there's something coming up, we can intellectually talk about it, and that serves maybe a certain purpose. But if we're able to express how we are affected by each other, we actually establish it. That's, in my mind, the only way to establish a deeper and a more authentic connection. So the third thing would be, emotions allow us to, in essence, access, what we might call bottom-up wisdom.
Yeah.
So, the way we usually think about intelligence is from the neocortex down, our thought process down. Bottom-up wisdom is more messy. It's not so well thought out or linear.
Right.
So we need to be able to trust that intuition, impulses, every emotion informs us in some way.
Yeah.
So, and I think the last thing I would say is that unless we can really feel our emotions, and this has certainly, been my own personal experience, that because I grew up in a very rigid Catholic family, and emotions were taboo. And unless we can really access that full range of emotions, especially the sort of more painful ones, anger, fear, hurt, those kinds of things, I don't think we have access to our higher order feelings like joy, bliss, empathy, altruism, and even ecstatic states. So it's for those four reasons, I think, that we place a real premium on emotional expression.
Yeah, I was thinking that that idea that what we're doing is recycling old feelings and that people are staying in one place and just spewing is so different from my experience, where what I find is that the more comfortable people get with really knowing their full range of emotion, in some ways, the larger their container becomes for their energy, their presence. And actually, like what I think a lot is that people don't get a chance to really mature their emotions unless they feel them.
Yeah.
So without feeling them, people walk around in a state of immaturity and fear a lot, especially around, as you said, some of the messier parts of feeling. And then we don't have real conflict. We don't speak our truth. We don't get really deeply connected because we're holding back so much of what we think is not going to be acceptable. And so I actually think, as opposed to it being a recycling, I find it to be a profoundly maturing process.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very well said. I haven't quite thought about it in exactly that way. And yeah, I think it's very, very consistent, with what I was just saying, because I really believe that the evolutionary part of it, is that it opens us up to a more authentic connection to each other. And then again, more access to, we often hear about spiritual bypass and emotional bypass and people that kind of live as if, you know, everything was okay and that they were in a state of acceptance and love. But it's been my deep experience that we don't feel that the depths of a capacity for love and empathy
Yeah.
unless we can express our pain, our anguish, our terror.
Yeah.
It's underneath those that we actually have the experience of those more profound, maybe even called spiritual aspects of ourselves.
Yeah. I was thinking, I keep thinking about that misconception about our work. And that also, in my experience, that doing this work leads people to a profound sense of unity and presence. So
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure where that misconception comes from, that this is people being so self-involved and just going over the same stuff over and over again. But that's certainly not the way we hold the work or what we're doing when we do these processes. We're really leading people towards maturity and towards their own presence and towards a greater capacity for love and openness and connection to the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't you find that rather than recycling or going back over the same wounds, so to speak, that actually people with being supported in an appropriate way, access levels of feeling that they've never had before, they've never had access to before.
Yes.
And that's essentially a part of themselves that's been disowned or, disallowed in some way. And the reclaiming of it is anything but rehashing old stuff.